we are here at Web Summit with Maureen Hoch, the editor of HBR.org, and I am Iffy Ike. I support with policy, movement, and advocacy for Black Innovation Alliance. So, Maureen, thank you so much for sitting with us. How are you taking in this year's Web Summit so far?
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. It definitely feels like after a couple of years of not being in person, suddenly we're all in person. Everyone's here, but everyone's really energized. And I'm hearing a lot of great ideas and feeling a lot of great energy in the air. So that feels good.
So one of the things that we were even talking before we sat down was around technology and its role with storytelling and news development, and just wanted to get your take around how we could, or how you see technology advancing to get more stories out there, and that could include AI, but also other forms of technology that more audiences need access to get their stories out.
I think part of that, and part of how we think about that at HBR, is how do you tell stories in different platforms, on different formats, and engage the audience that way. So, of course, you can read one of our magazine articles, but we also want to make sure we have something for you in the podcast space, how we have something for you in the video space, newsletters, and I think going forward, we have like a whole new world to tackle, which is augmented reality, metaverse. How are those communities going to form, number one, and how does a brand, any media brand, show up in that space authentically? So my hope is that the technology makes more kinds of content more available to more people, and you're able to kind of customize it to the things that really matter to you. That's the hope and the promise of personalization generally, and also, I think with technology like AI, some of that might be applied through, can you find what you're looking for?
Right.
So if you come to HBR.org and are looking for something specific, how easy is it to find that? That's one application. Then the other way will be, how do we tell stories, or how do we make you, help you put the ideas to use using technology?
That's actually, that kind of gives into my next, I'm just in awe of like what you've created in the engagement space at HBR. Some of it is the creation of bots and how that's been useful. Can you talk a little bit more about that strategy and innovation with engagement at HBR that you've led on?
Yes, thank you for that.
Of course.
So we've thought about different ways, again, to use platforms, and one experiment we ran a few years ago was actually building a bot on Slack, which a lot of teams use, so that you could access our management tip of the day, which is one of our most popular newsletters. Is there a way that we could make that interactive with you? So you don't have to go, you don't even have to open your email. It's something that you can sign up for, and it appears in a Slack channel that you've opted into. We saw some really interesting and good results with that. We're not doing that experiment anymore, but it's part of it's an example of what we try to do to say, here's the platform, here's what we do well, how do we take that and adapt it for that platform? Right. So Slack, the Slack bot's a good example of that. We've even tried other things with messaging. I think texting and messaging, and some of this right now is happening more through app notifications for a lot of news organizations, but that's a frontier I think we still have yet to figure out. What do you want from a media company like HBR on text, on WhatsApp, on some of these other sort of, and again, something that asks you to interact.
Right.
It's not just a one way, like a social media post, like here's the content, enjoy. It's supposed to be more of a conversation. Those are some things I think we want to continue to explore, along, like I said, with AR and some of those emerging technologies too, which seem to hold a lot of potential, even if they're not in the mainstream.
Right. And I guess in this final question, one of the things that we're interested in at the Black Innovation Alliance is, how do we create this bridge between emerging technology and also those that are building innovations and technologies that maybe aren't getting the access to be a part of the conversation or be a part of the experimentation that is needed, right? What do you think is possible for spaces like Web Summit, but also HBR.org, for that increased diversity, not just in representation, but also diversity in technologies and innovations that sometimes don't get the same exposure, right? But we know are necessary for how we all evolve.
Right. Well, I think about that two ways as an editor at HBR. Number one, it's, we're committed to surfacing expertise from everywhere, and making sure that we are surfacing people from underrepresented groups, that we have a diverse set of voices. In that world, we're just always on the lookout, and our editors are always on the lookout for those real world examples of how that technology is being built. And again, some of the barriers and challenges that come along with that. Those are part of the stories that we want to tell. And I hope we get to continue to do that well into the future and surface more of those voices.
Yeah, well, I mean, BIA is a member organization, now almost 90 members across different areas in tech. And we would love to continue speaking with you about how we can especially bring those real world conversations that could also lead to the other types of empirical evidence that is needed to support how we expand technology. So Maureen, thank you so much for this time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. This was fun.